Although I'm a writer, and I always wanted to be a writer since childhood, I don't like to write. But I sure enjoy having written. So now when I'm faced with taking an unpleasant action, I don't ask, what do I want to do? I ask myself, what will I be glad that I did? And then I act on that.
Welcome to another episode of Write of Your Life, where life happens and life storytelling transforms it. Our show is brought to you by lifestorytelling.com. And guess what? You don't have to be a writer to write your life stories. Lifestorytelling.com will teach you how. If you've been through hell and lived to tell about it, or your family skeletons are poking out of the closet, you'll want to check it out at lifestorytelling.com. Our guest today is Kevin Bergen, the director of the Center Counseling, Recovery, and Growth in Torrance, California. He's passionate about helping men find recovery from addiction, teaching couples to find bliss in their marriages, and helping people find all kinds of success by leveraging their own self-care. Welcome, Kevin. We're glad you're here. Well, Kevin, we've given a little bit about your background, but you have so much more to share with our listeners. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to create the Bergen Protocol and a little bit more about it?
Great question, Stacy. Thanks. Creating the Bergen Protocol was something that was very personal for me. I had a friend who was a success coach, and he told me about this regimen or a program that he had his clients do, and he would make it so that they wouldn't be his client unless they did this. And I thought, that sounds kind of harsh. But when he told me what it was, it's all about increasing somebody's sense of well-being. And if they won't create their own well-being, then the work that he was doing with them as a success coach wasn't going to be as effective. And so for his benefit and their benefit, he said, you've got to work on your own well-being if we're going to work together in a coaching situation. So I took this program that he did. It was very basic, and I developed it into a whole protocol, and I actually wrote a whole book about it called the Bergen Protocol. And I started giving it to family members and friends and even clients, and I found some really huge benefit that were coming to people right away by using this. Because if we elevate our well-being by practicing self-care, then anything we're trying to accomplish is more effective.
Right. So give us some examples of what those protocols are.
Well, I can give it to you in about 2 sentences.
Oh, sweet. Good.
The whole protocol is very simple. That's why it's so applicable and doable. So for the protocol, you choose 10 actions that you can take on a daily basis that will each give you a sense of, I am better off for having done that action. So it could be exercising. It could be journaling. It could just be taking 3 deep breaths and relaxing all your muscles. So anything like that, you choose 10 actions. You give yourself a point for every action you take in a day. So the potential is 10 points in a day. And then you give you take the average of the last 5 days totals, and that produces for you an action score. If you keep that action score above 7, you are going to notice that your whole sense of well-being is elevated, and then you're going to be more motivated to write your book, to start your company, to get recovery from your addiction. Even if it's just losing 10 pounds, you're going to be able to accomplish whatever you want to do if you elevate your well-being. And this is a way to quantify self-care so that you can make sure your well-being is elevated and therefore accomplish whatever you want to.
Wow, that's really interesting. Essentially, it's if you get at least 7 of 10 things every day.
The two criteria for these actions on your list of 10 is that it can be done on a daily basis.
Okay.
And that you will sincerely have a sense of, I am better off for having done this action.
I am better off for having done this action. Okay.
Because that's what self-care is doing things for yourself.
Right. Do you find that a lot of people don't want to do or can't find themselves doing self-care items?
There's so many obstacles. There's so much resistance pulling us back from doing this. I named my blog theactioncore.com because it's all about taking action. Mm-hmm. Everything boils down to taking action because nothing will happen for us unless we take action. And so that resistance to taking action is something that actually gets broken down as we take action because we get a benefit from taking the action. That benefit is motivation to then turn around and take the next action. So as we get a score of 7, 8, 9, even 10 one day, that becomes the motivation to take more action the following day. And so it's a positive spiral upward as we keep treating ourselves and taking care of ourselves, then we want to take more care of ourselves. And so we end up being able to finish that novel or paint that painting or finish that business plan for that great idea that we have in our minds or just get along better with our spouse.
So this looks like it's just the opposite because I know there's lots of people who are listening to this who might be in a downward spiral because they've disappointed themselves or disappointed their families or had lots of different disappointments in their lives. And this is essentially reversing that and saying, take 10 things and they don't have to be hard. They can be easy, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Easy things.
I make sure to tell people when you're choosing your actions, make sure you find a balance between things that are going to take a long time. Like I've got exercise on my personal list, and that can mean anything from going to the gym for a couple hours with travel time and shower and everything else, or it can just be taking a walk around the neighborhood. And then I've got something like the example I gave, so simple, it takes less than 30 seconds. Just take 3 slow, deep breaths and focus on relaxing all my muscles. If I do that, I am definitely better off. And I get a point for that. I put together, first of all, an Excel spreadsheet so that people could track all this, and it would calculate their score and everything. If you want to go to bergenprotocol.com, there's a link in there so that you can download this spreadsheet. But then, with the release of the book, I created a mobile app.
Oh, nice.
And so Action 2.0 is the name of the app, and it's probably easiest for people just to go to the iTunes store and search for Kevin Bergen. Turns out there's a whole lot of different apps with the name the word action in it.
Right. So
if they search on Kevin Bergen in the iTunes store, then they'll be able to get that. It's for iOS only at this point. So Android users, you can use the Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, for now.
That's right.
Well, that's really interesting, and that kind of plays into writing, and because you have said that writing about and through trauma is a solid part of recovery, and that's kind of key to what your latest project is. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and how that fits into the Bergen Protocol?
Absolutely. Part of this protocol and actions that people were taking, and that's one of the things that I do with clients that are using this, is help them come up with their actions. It's more difficult for some people, and it's a breeze for some people just to list these actions that they're going to do. And I go into that in quite some depth in the book. But one of the things I've recommended that people do is write, whether they journal or whether they just do exercises or whether they do creative writing and fiction and stuff like that. And I found myself telling people how to write and how to do it in an efficient way. And I ended up developing this whole program that I was teaching to clients where they do therapeutic writing in just 10 minutes a day. And so I thought, why am I explaining this over and over again? And so I decided to make a course out of it. And it's in the form of a 7-day challenge. So you get a different email every day for 7 days. And it teaches you how to do this, what I've called expansion writing. Expansion writing is a form of therapeutic writing that has specific steps to it that help people get prompted on what to write in the first place, and then just put pen to paper and just observe, just see what goes down on the paper.
And they only have to write for 10 minutes?
That's right.
Is it deeply personal, or how does that, what are the types of questions that you email?
So it starts with sentence stems, and they complete a sentence 5 to 7 times. And by doing that, what happens, they don't think about what they're writing so much, and they write out the stem each time. And by doing that, by the 4th, 5th, 6th time that they complete the same sentence stem, their subconscious starts to get pinged and things come out that they don't expect.
Right.
So an example, I might give somebody a stem that says, writing on a consistent basis, ... That's the stem. So they would write out that stem and then just finish and end the sentence 5 to 7 times. And it's so surprising what people discover comes out. And then when they've done that 5 to 7 times, I tell them the next step in expansion writing is just put pen to paper and write whatever comes out.
So this is just kind of a take on free write, where your brain can't write junk for that long.
Yeah.
And you're getting them to get past that junk to get to the real important stuff for them.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I have them start by setting a timer for 10 minutes. So they get that going, and they know they're not going to have to put aside 30 minutes or be late for work or this or that. They know it's all going to happen in 10 minutes. And at the end of the 10 minutes, I have them do a 4-step evaluation of what they've written. And I made it really simple so it can take usually less than a minute, sometimes 30 seconds, to do this evaluation. And they do this each day, every time they do expansion writing. And the steps are: 1, based on the writing that you just did, what are your thoughts? Step 2, based on the writing you just did, what are your feelings? Now, this immediately helps them separate their thoughts from their feelings.
Right.
Step 3, how long did yesterday's writing continue to affect you or stay in your mind? And you see, as they start doing step 3 of this eval over several days, they're going to start to be more aware and conscious of how this exercise is affecting them, and they're looking for the benefits. And then the 4th step is, based on today's writing alone, how likely are you on a scale of 1 to 10 to write again?
And so this is a 7-day writing challenge. Do you find that people continue beyond that because they're just, they get that feel good going?
Absolutely. They can commit.
I can imagine.
They can commit to 7 days. And then I say, if you want to keep writing, that's fine. Just pick another number. If you're going to commit for another 7 days, if you want to do this for 10 days, if you want to do this for another month, then you know I've got motivation and I've got an end in sight. So I'm not going to feel like a failure if I stop doing this at some point.
Right. Now, you developed this technique to prevent relapse into addiction, and you've seen some success with this. Tell us a little bit about that.
One of my focuses in my private practice, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I love working with men and helping them find recovery from all kinds of different addictions. And I find that a big concern for people is relapse. And am I going to relapse? Their spouse is concerned. Is my spouse going to relapse? I get a lot of people referred to me when they exit a rehab program because they need some kind of gap filler. They need somebody to help them transition from 24-hour-a-day in residence rehab to living their life again. And one of the things that I am helping people do that with is this expansion writing, because they get to do this on a daily basis. So it fills that gap on a regular basis. And then they also get to do their own therapy in 10 minutes. Because writing is so therapeutic. They discover things that sometimes aren't conscious, and they can discover things that could likely be a challenge going forward, and they can deal with it right in their writing. And so they're more prepared.
You mentioned earlier awareness, and that's one of the things I really try to bring to the forefront is a lot of us walk around without a lot of awareness of our own selves, our own thoughts, our own experiences. And that's what this does. It brings that awareness to someone that has been in addiction or any difficulty.
Absolutely.
So have you used it give me some examples of other places that you've used it besides folks who have been addicted?
Well, I love writing, as you know, and I found that it really helps me and some of my clients who have come to enjoy writing because I've introduced this to them. And it does so much for writing in the way of helping writer's block, helping people get motivated to produce, and just make sure that they can do something on a consistent basis. After they do expansion writing, I've had people tell me that I got all these ideas come to me from my expansion writing, and it's almost like I couldn't stop. I couldn't wait to just get to start doing some creative writing with that.
Wow.
And so the ideas start flowing all over the place.
And so it's kind of like a 1-2 punch, right? With the 7-day writing challenge or expansion writing and the Bergen Protocol. Right?
Oh, sure.
And you really can make things happen.
Expansion writing can become part of your protocol. It can become an action that you do every day.
One of those successful things you do every day, right? So I can see this useful for someone who is creating an online business, who is just maybe stuck but doesn't know why they're stuck in life.
Absolutely.
They don't have huge problems, but maybe they're just kind of feeling blah about their life, and they can do this expansion writing, and it will help them kind of dig deeper with themselves, right?
It's funny that you use that word, because stuck is one of the things that I found that this fixes so much. People find themselves stuck in a job, or they find themselves stuck, unable to earn adequate income to support the family, or they become stuck and they feel depressed and they're down and they don't know how to get out of it. The protocol as a whole is something that helps people get unstuck, and expansion writing is an example of how they can get right down to the detail and start getting unstuck from wherever they are.
Now, you have a giveaway just for our listeners, and that is the 7-day therapeutic writing challenge, correct?
It is, but it's special for your listeners because I have created the expansion writing writer's edition only for your listeners.
Wonderful. That's great. Okay, and that is at theactioncore.com/WOYL for Right of Your Life.
That is exactly right.
And we'll be sure and put that in the show notes as well. And thank you for doing that just for us. I appreciate that. I'm really excited about digging into this and myself and taking a look at the book. It's the Bergen Protocol, and it's available on Amazon. We'll put the links in the show notes as well. And then you have a podcast. Tell us about your podcast.
Oh, thanks for bringing that up. This is something that I really care a lot about. It's something that I always enjoy when I do it. Recovery Support with Kevin Bergen is the name of the podcast. And it started just because I wanted to reach more people than would fit in my office. And there's all kinds of people in recovery that need something extra, need something as a boost or something like that. It's not meant to replace a 12-step fellowship or anything like that. But on the show, I will read a portion of 12-step literature or an excerpt from a book that really addresses somebody's difficulty in recovery. Or the most recent podcast episode that I just did, a man by the name of Sam Gritner did a blog post talking about writing his suicide note. He was almost ready to commit suicide and didn't. And turns out he had been in recovery from alcohol for a couple years, but he was lying to other people and lying to himself that he was in recovery because he was still using other drugs on a regular basis. Oh. And on my show, I read 2 of his blog posts, and they're very dramatic, but also very instructional on what do you do when you feel so lousy that you're considering killing yourself. And I really like the way the show turned out, and I'm really happy with that one. People can go to the iTunes store and search, again, Kevin Bergen, and the show Recovery Support with Kevin Bergen will come right up.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much. This is fabulous information. I can't wait to dig into it, and I can't wait for our listeners to also click on the links and check out your information, and also get that 7-day therapeutic writing challenge free. And I hope you keep on doing what you're doing. You're making the world a better place.
Thank you so much, Stacy. I enjoy Right of Your Life. Keep doing what you're doing.
Great information from Kevin Bergen. At the end of each episode, I peek into the Life Story Toolkit and share information on one particular tool that you might consider using if you're writing or would like to start writing about your life. The Life Story Toolkit is sponsored by lifestorytelling.com, where you can find your life theme, discover where to start writing, and craft your life into a compelling story. This episode's Life Story Toolkit features ZenWriter, a text editor for Windows that cuts out all the distraction and lets you focus on letting your thoughts flow. It's a full-screen, Zen-like program that offers few formatting options, but a whole lot of tranquility. If you find yourself skipping between tabs in your browser, checking up on email and Facebook when you're meant to be writing, ZenWriter is a solution to your distracted mind. There's a trial and full version available at beenocle.com. That's BEENOKLE.com. Well, that's all we have for today. In the last episode, Kylie Dunn discussed turning TED Talks into action. So if you've listened to great ideas from a TED Talk and promptly did nothing about it, you might want to go back and have a listen. Next week, we'll share voices from the Story Circle Conference, 1-minute snippets of Story Circle Lives. Be sure to check out the show notes on every single episode. We have free resource downloads not mentioned in the show at rightofyourlife.com. We love interacting with our listeners on social media. We're on Pinterest, Facebook, and just about anywhere you can hold a great virtual conversation. Our handle is Right of Your Life. Some of our listeners like supporting the arts. If you do too and want to support this podcast, you can do so by sharing each episode on your social networks or leaving us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google. All of these help us reach many more people who could benefit from writing about their lives. We hope that today you have the right of your life.